Hello and welcome to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and I'm really excited to have this beautiful lady joining me, Pushpa. And she is just incredible. And for me, somebody who really inspires me. So I'm very grateful to have you here. She is the host of the Leadership Mastery TV and also the founder of Leadership by Design. So welcome and thank you for joining me, lovely.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me here today.
I really love what you do, and I'm very big on leadership, and I think leadership is, it can be done in so many different fields. It's not just in corporate, but we can be leaders in our life, we can be leaders in the community, and all of that. But talk about your sort of journey in the leadership field, and what really set you onto that path of focusing on leadership.
So for me, leadership started at a very young age, and I won't go into the full story, but it was when my mom died. I think I was younger than 10 years old, and I had 9 brothers. 7 were pretty much still at school, and I took on the role of being mom at home, looking after my father. And at that time, I did not realize what I was doing. And I think it's something that I just went into autopilot. And then throughout the years, over the last 20, 30 years, I've had quite a few challenges. And it's become a habit where I've grown within and decided to take on the leadership role so that I could take the people with me to a better place, whether it was my kids, whether it was family. And I believe leadership really comes from within.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the things that for me is like, I really pick up on your passion for leadership. And I think that's probably where, you bring out that passion side of it so people can really step into the power of being a great leader. Do you find that there's, for me, I know that there's many different types of leadership, but, do you think that everybody has leadership within themselves?
Absolutely. Obviously, there are born leaders who emerge into the field. Most of the time, their sustaining in that leadership role is limited because leadership is skills that we all have within ourselves. It's literally accessing them. The secret is to grow them continuously, to nurture them, to keep checking yourself, to have your self-reflections, to see where you are as a leader. And I think that's where the balance doesn't come in. Like in today's society, people will go and do a 1-week, 2-week leadership course, and then they go on to take that leadership role. But they haven't really learned the authenticity of it that comes from within. And if they only connected with that and realized, their passionate level of being in that role as a leader, they'll find that they're at a different pedestal than most leaders are in today's world.
Yeah, I love that because I'm really much about, being true and authentic. And I think that, obviously from looking back in my corporate days that I probably wasn't showing up authentically because I thought that I had to have a particular persona associated with how I should be, as a leader. Do you think that, we are slowly, getting that sort of, I don't know if say mindset, I guess, and just allowing people to really show up true and authentic, but they can still be leaders and be quite strong and, very influential, even if they show up as themselves?
Yeah, that's the whole thing about leadership is that if you want to influence people, you've got to be that person that already has control of their mind, their heart, their emotion, their physiology. Because if you cannot lead yourself, it's going to be near enough impossible to lead others. And if you don't have followers, then you're merely taking a walk. So it's really important that, yes, leadership is influential. It has to be because you won't be in that leadership role if you weren't going to influence other people. The thing is to do it for the right reasons and for you to be able to enjoy that journey in every moment of your role. And the role could be a lifetime role. For example, you might be a homestay parent, or you might have your own business. Wherever you are as a person in any type of leadership role, it really, really is important that whatever you're doing comes from within first.
I
if
think
that
it's,
makes sense.
no, it makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of the times is that you really can see, you know, true born leaders. And I mean, I look at some of my nieces and nephews now and I'm like going, some of them are true born leaders. They're very, you know, they're very strong and, you know, not afraid to take charge, but also too that they really know their sense of self. And I think when you know your sense of self, it's very easy for you to lead. It's very easy for you to, you know, take people on a journey because
Mm,
you already have that sort of solid foundation already, and you're not having
mm.
to look elsewhere. You can really trust within yourself.
And that's really great because you've said nieces and nephews. It's really great to see today's youth coming from that space because, you know, youth are so techie savvy right now. A
Mm,
lot of them have a lot of friends online, but when it comes to friends that they really, really do have on a personal level, they probably couldn't even count them on one hand. But when
mm,
we see youth, and it's right, you know, out of 100, you'll probably see a handful that really come from that selfless place, whether it's in a youth club or whether it's in a sports arena, and they really want their colleagues and their friends to be in a better place. So I think kudos to your niece and nephew that they're actually doing that and coming from that space.
yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, you know, with I even find, you know, just in my social network, and you're like going, well, I know these people, but I only know them socially, like via social media, and we are at a disconnect, and it is very hard. How can you be a leader in your industry if you're not
Absolutely.
getting out there, if you are not showing up, and whether or not that is online or whether or not you're in person? And I think that, you know, we really need to step that up a lot more. We need to get back to the
Yes.
human connection and really show people, you know, these different skills and knowledges that we've learnt, you know, back in the day.
Yeah.
You
You've
know,
actually nailed it there, the human connection, because we live in a world where people are just living as human doings. It's like as if they're on an automated machine. We need to
mm,
come back to being a human being as you were meant to be.
yeah, and the connection is very important. And I think great leaders know how to connect. I think that's probably one of the best qualities that a good leader has. Do you find that, you know, obviously in your work, that you find that there's other qualities that you can sort of go that really make a great leader?
Yes, personal development's probably one of the biggest lessons that I teach. A leader, no matter what role, should always be personally growing themselves. There's always an element of growth in any and every area of your life. So I believe that growth is the most important thing. You cannot grow enough,
Mm,
and that should be done intentionally. Something like I set my intent the day before, and I always do it in the evening for the next day. And when I do my intent for the next day, it always involves an element of personal development in there. And then I'll find that my to-do list follows naturally from there. And throughout the night, unconsciously, I'm already preparing for the day ahead of me, which sort of ignites a passion inside me as well, and the joy of wanting to get up and just, you know, start working to make that happen.
yeah, I totally agree. I think, you know, personal development and I remember back in my corporate days when I first started in management, and, you know, I was leading a team, and I think I was at the young age of 19 and I had a team, and
Oh, wow.
you know, and I was sort of like this deer in a headlight going, oh, what, you know, what am I doing and all that. But I went and I asked my manager that time, I'm like going, I've never really led a team. And he goes, no, that's okay. He goes, I want you to, you know, follow other people and look at the other team leaders and all that sort of stuff. But I knew how to connect with people. I knew how to have conversations. I knew how to,
Yes.
you know, really, you know, just speak to them like as a normal sort of person. And I think, you know, that was one of my biggest attributes of obviously being a leader. But, you know, I also questioned myself going, oh, I'm 19. What did he see in me? But, you know, when he, you know, he asked me, you know, with it. So, you know, I was very grateful, because that really, you know, led me on such an incredible career pathway. But with the
Yes.
leaders that you work with now, do you see a new trend coming through? You know, obviously for people who are starting out in their career, or, you know, even in
Mm.
business, is there a trend on the type of leadership? And I don't want to say style, but just the way that they are embracing it, and, you know, being able to help lead and influence others?
Yeah, I think more so now people are, you've said the right word, in communicating, in connection as well. I believe people are being more honest in their roles as well. And some of the leaders that I've been working with, especially corporate and government, they've started to realize that there's no more dictatorship, that you have to be a part of that team. And if something doesn't work out, that's great. Take the onus, be a part of that team. 5% focus on what's not happened, and then 95% focus on the solution. So a lot of leaders, and it comes back to the personal development again, they're accessing a lot of resources which is freely available on the internet, and they're actually growing themselves. I'm surprised at how many people are, because what I do is take ancient wisdom with modern practices, and I've integrated the both. And I can actually see the gap that many, many years ago, this is what leadership was actually about. It was always about the person first. Then came the highlight of service. So leadership really is about being a servant. And I think in the middle area, people were refusing to serve. Well, leadership literally is about service. And now that we're coming into this day and age, and the millennials are coming in as well, you'll see that we're sort of going back into that really starting point of let's grow you, and then let's go out and work with other people.
Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
that, because it is such a big culture change that is, you know, occurring everywhere. And I think even, you know, as, you know, a business owner myself, and, you know, I still have, you know, quite a lot of friends that work in corporate, and the personal development side is really starting to increase quite a lot. And I don't think that you can learn too little or too much. I think, you know, as human
No.
beings, we crave learning. We, you know, crave to continue to evolve and work on ourselves. So,
Mm.
you know, learning these new styles and learning more about yourself, it actually helps you be a better leader.
Yeah, and what I was like last week, I was in all the townships and rural. And the programs that I'm offering there it's not just a one-off event. They've had a lot of people come in and do a day event here, a lot of government departments, because these are places that have suffered either the drought, the floods, or fires.
Mm.
And because they haven't got consistency, nothing is happening. So what I do is, for example, I'm just doing a project in January. I'll go in there in January. My keynote is not about my workbook, and I give them that workbook, and then throughout the 3 months, every 2 weeks, there'll be a webinar call where I can work with them. It literally is one-on-one, and
Yeah.
provide that support over 3 months to make sure that by the end of that 3 months, they are really comfortable in the changes that they're going to be implementing. Most of them would have already taken a lot of actions. And that's what we need to do. Because I mean, as you know, I've been a senior leader for, some very famous people in the world. And I've seen people spend tens and thousands of dollars attending a 6-7 day seminar. You'd be lucky if 95% of that audience actually goes out and does something that's long sustainable,
Mm.
which is sad really, because they're in the moment, they're in the hype of the event, they're seeing their dreams, they've targeted their beliefs, but unless they've really attached a pain to attending the event, you'd be surprised at how many people, really do get some result out of it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's like, you know, for a leader, is that you really need to take that ownership, and you need to take the ownership there and make yourself accountable for everything. And once you go and you commit and you know, take that action, your natural instincts start to kick in a little bit more. And, you know, all of the things that you learn and, you know, you've seen over the years, they allow you to sort of drive that sort of behavior or that leadership style a little bit more. So I find
Yeah.
that, I've been to events where I've like gone out, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this, going to do that. And then like a couple of days later, I'm like, oh, I can't remember with it. But yeah, that's it. You sort of like, oh, what did they say? Because it is,
What?
yes, it's information overload sometimes too. And I think,
Yeah.
as, leaders, and I think that, sometimes it's about just trying to process the information, but slowly implement little bits and pieces, because
Yes.
too much is overwhelm. And, as human beings, we generally only process about 3 pieces of information at one time.
Yeah, and everybody works at a different level. So if I found natural leaders, and they'll take on board and think, we'll go and do it. They'll go ahead and do their plans and everything. We're all different, and that's what's really unique. Yes, it's great to have that competition, but it's great to also recognize, how well do you resonate with what's being delivered, what relates specifically to you. Because too often we're influenced by the environment, and we think that because everybody else is doing that, that's what we need to do. One of the questions that I ask when I do my programs is that, who are you? Then who are you truly? And then the third question always relates to, is that who were you supposed to be before anybody told you what you are today? So really getting back, because I could probably say 77% of the world's population are living a life according to expectations and what other people's beliefs and values have been embedded in them.
Mm. Uh, Look, I mean, obviously that's a lot what I work with my clients with, and it's about stripping back all of those sort of layers. And I found that in the corporate, I was showing up somebody else. I had all these masks and labels. I would have as soon as I put on my corporate suit, like it was my suit of armor going into work, but it was like who I thought I needed to portray, not the true person who I am. So I think a lot of leaders still need to learn that. They need to, get back to who they are, and really, what they want to actually, I guess, leave as a legacy in a way, as a leader too, because, we all have so much to offer, and we have so much that we can give to people. And to think about, what impact do you want to leave, during your journey?
So when you were wearing your suit, did you feel constrained? Were you constrained here in your communication, or did you feel that you just wanted to take the suit off and just be the real you?
I realize now that the reason why I would go home so exhausted at the end of the day is because I knew that I was trying to pretend to be somebody else. But now when I go and write an email, I just write it. It's a natural flow. But I would remember sitting, at the desk, and I would be, a couple of days, I have to reread that. Or I wonder if they're okay. Or I'd pick up the phone going, did you get my email? Is it okay? Like really questioning, because I wasn't being who I was. And, I can crack silly jokes sometimes, and, all that sort of stuff. But that wasn't being shown in my corporate world, because I wasn't showing up as myself. I wasn't. Yeah. So, I mean, I absolutely love what you're doing, because I think it's very, very important for the leaders, to really be authentic, because we are so consumed with so much other influence, and it's just so much better to be yourself and to really shine through.
Yeah, and it's like as if a whole load of weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and through you've heard of NLP, through neuro linguistics programming, when we've got the person back to being the person that they're meant to be, like you said yourself. In corporate, it's like as if the weight, even from the body physically, has started just slowly deteriorating, because over years they've built up so much that the energy is blocked. And the energy starts blocking, from our saddlebags, from our hips up, until it gets to a point where they feel so overwhelmed, and that's when the stress and the depression and sadness starts coming in.
Absolutely. And I mean, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, talking about, leadership, and, I obviously have been in, the corporate world for about 20 years, and most of it was always in leadership. But one of the
Yeah.
big things that we talked about was obviously that whole openness of communication. And you mentioned that before, because I think that is one of the big things that is slowly breaking down, that it is a
Mm.
very open and transparent communication all the way from the top down to the bottom. Are you seeing that
Yes.
yourself now, like going into these different organizations and seeing the transparency of the communication?
The people sitting at the top of the hierarchy, and I've worked with a lot of companies national wide. It's taken time to break that barrier because they've created this habitual pattern. Like some organizations, I'd go in at 6 o'clock in the morning and possibly do a yoga session with them, especially if they've got a day where there's going to be really hard decisions to be made.
Mm,
And even though we look at being transparent and the communication levels, we were really looking at the audience they were having. So, when we match and mirror, so if somebody on the other side, for example, it was a buyer or a seller, they had to meet that person at their level of communication, and then to sort of taper it down where they were both at a place where there was absolute trust between them so that they could move forward. And again, with the people at the top level, and this is not just in Australia, in the UK, it was really getting them to understand that this is not about you.
mm,
It's what your client, whoever sitting in front of you, what do they need, what do they want, and then bringing yourself to that level, knowing that it's not sort of bringing you down in any way as a leader. In
mm.
fact, it's putting you in a better stance for them and for yourself as well.
Yeah, which all comes back from the place of service, is that really is what a leader is there to do, is we're here to serve. And sometimes you do need to make decisions, but it's really listening. It's, finding the information that you need to be able to make those
Mhm.
informed decisions, to be able to, lead either a team or lead the company, all those different things as well.
Yeah. And that's
Beautiful.
why, for me personally, I've committed my life to a life of service. Everybody has different beliefs. I truly believe in God and I believe in the unknown and my blind faith. And I've committed my life to serving. And up to now, I was doing a lot of community work. I was reaching out to a lot of the nonprofits, hands on. And where I've realized I have the greatest impact is if I reach the people at the higher level. Just like we've said now, is that once that opens up and then it floods down to everybody that should be having that relevant information and communication, as a leader should be delegating, and as a leader should be communicating in their own in their own personal arena.
Yeah, I agree. One of my old I would say he was also my supervisor, but he was a bit of a mentor for me. And he said, we do have a little bit backwards because we have,
Mm.
these structures and hierarchies within organizations. And, if we have a look at the word leader, but then we also have the word manager, and literally they need to be switched around, because we say manager is higher than what a team leader is, but literally, you've got a manager up here, but they're the ones that are leading it. They're the ones filtering it down. So I think sometimes we get
Yeah.
so stuck in the title, we get stuck in, the formalities of it, and
Yes,
forget the higher
right.
purpose of what we're here for.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautiful. So
Mm.
I look, as I said, I absolutely love what you do, and I think it's really needed out there to really have a conversation, but also to be able to help people embrace their leadership, and just to know that there is multiple different ways of leading. There is just not one stock standard way, because we're all unique
No.
individuals as well. What would you say would be like one piece of advice that for somebody out there who is wanting to step into a leadership role, to really help them, grow and develop into a beautiful leader?
I'd say intentionally grow yourself every day. Intentionally look at your ability to developing you as a person
Mhm.
and already visualizing yourself as a leader because you've already made decisions and choices. You've already taken on that leadership role in your life.
Yeah, I love that. Look, thank you so much for joining us today, because I think this is just an amazing conversation, and I think it's something that really needs to be had, because there are so many leaders out there that, you know, they don't think that they are a leader. But as we said, you know, there's leaders in the family, there's leaders in community, and it's about them really growing and developing and, you know, embracing their strengths that they have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
So thank you
you're
so
right.
much for joining
You're
us
more than
today.
welcome.
Oh, I
Yeah, you're more
absolutely
than
love speaking to you. So, yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode of the Corporate Escapist TV show. I'm going to put all of Pushpa's details below that you can reach out and follow her and get in touch with her. If you need any help and advice on leadership, she is definitely the person to go to. So thank you everyone for watching. To remember to follow your passion in life, as life is too short. It's about filling it with love, joy, abundance, and flow, and to live each day to the fullest. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and I want to thank everyone for joining us on this episode of the Corporate Escapist TV show.
Thank you.